This is the CreaseCast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the CreaseCast, your Friday edition. As you may notice, I'm in the Crease Cave right now because while Cody is not here today, even though our Twitter said he would be, that was my bad. Cody's obviously not here today, so I have brought in a guest, a very impromptu guest invite. I've got today. Joining me is a dear friend of mine from BCIT. She's in the journalism program with me, and as big a sports person as I know, Angelina Mintz is here with me today. Angelina, how's it going?
Good. How are you? Hey, guys.
I'm doing great. This is your first podcast, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Other than school assignments, but I haven't been on an actual podcast before.
Right, and that was a scripted.
That
thing
was a
too.
script
That
thing,
was
yeah.
not because we partnered on a project for the our radio program, where we did a documentary style show basically on the golden goal from the Winter Olympics kind of thing, because that had to be focused on BC history, and then it's that was scripted, that had interviews prepped it ahead of time, that sort of thing.
That was a very edited, scripted heavy, clip heavy podcast episode, and it was only 15 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. This is a very different type of show.
It was like a radio doc, to be honest.
Well, welcome to your first official podcast.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, and I'm excited to have you because we're going to be talking a little bit of Canucks stuff. Obviously, there's not much Canucks stuff to go over right now because the team is still not playing any games. It's
shout out to the ownership.
I mean,
for that.
Well, it's a little bit of everybody. It's the NHL. Yeah. It's them. It's the NHL not wanting to lose more revenue than they've already gotten.
That's true.
There's just a lot. There's a whole lot of people to blame here because today was announced that the game tomorrow against the Senators has been postponed as well. So the National Hockey League announced today the Canucks game versus the Ottawa Senators Saturday, January the 8th, has been postponed due to current attendance restrictions caused by significant increases in COVID-19 cases in BC and the growing impact on hospitalization and the healthcare system. Long story short, again, they could have gone forward with that game just with the smaller crowd, with the half capacity crowd. They didn't want to. Just for an example, the Vancouver Warriors of the National Lacrosse League play at Rogers Arena. They're owned by the Canucks. They're playing tonight at Rogers Arena right now, in front of a half capacity crowd. But
there's other NHL teams still playing with half capacity crowds in Ontario.
I think even Toronto just wasn't even playing with fans at all. I don't think there's anyone in the building.
They've restricted, and I think Montreal is also restricted fans. If I don't know if they have any at all now.
It's something like that. Other teams, here's the thing: you notice which teams aren't hurting for money nearly as much, aren't bleeding money hand over fist right now. Because if you're one of the things that Patrick Johnson of the Province brought up not that long ago, when specifically in relation to the Panthers game versus the Canadians, I believe last week, might have, I think it was earlier this week, where essentially they probably should have canceled that game because the Canadians were basically playing an entire team made up of AHL guys.
Oh yeah,
and
that's right.
The Panthers had a few COVID cases on their team as well, but they didn't. And what Patrick Johnson was alluding to was that the Panthers, for them, that game is one of the biggest money-making games of the year for them all season. And they can't afford to refund everybody, especially, and there's a good chance that a lot of Canadians fans weren't going to come back for a rescheduled game. So they needed that revenue, and the Panthers are a team that is very much needs gate revenue to make money. So that was that was a big deal. So it was one of those things where it's you seem to be very picky choosy about which games get postponed and which games don't, specifically based in who needs the money the most. And in the Canucks case, I don't love finding out that they're so desperate for revenue that they can't play games at half capacity. That's a little concerning.
Because half capacity is still 9,000 fans.
Still a lot of money.
Yeah, that's still a lot of money because that's pretty much season ticket holders and a few single ticket holders as well. But also, going to your point about that, the Canucks were playing in the past few games. Easter, like the one that got postponed on Wednesday was against the Islanders, and the one postponed tomorrow is against the Senators. So those are both like Eastern Conference teams, and they're not as big of money makers. Ottawa, yes, is a Canadian team, so we do get more revenue from Senators fans, but they also postponed the Leafs game too, and
that's the
that's
big
a
one.
huge moneymaker for them. That and the Canadians
Those
are
two,
like the two biggest moneymaker games.
Those two games for sure are the ones that sell out the easiest, and I would assume that probably down the line the Kraken Canucks games are going to be in that mix as well.
Oh, 100%.
Because like in the same way that a lot of Vancouverites travel to Seattle to see Mariners like Blue Jays games, I think you're going to see the same thing with the Canucks and Kraken, where both teams fans kind of are invading each other's arena every time they play each other. Like I think that's just going to be part of the deal.
100%.
But yeah, for now it's just a case of they're not going to play. They're not playing any games in Vancouver for the foreseeable future. The Canucks today, we're talking about how the team itself does not sound happy.
They're frustrated.
Yeah, and it's again, it's one of those things where it's out of their hands. It's probably out of Jim Rutherford's hands as well, because he's not the one paying the bills in this particular case.
So it's more up to the ownership and the league itself.
Yeah, exactly. And again, it's frustrating for the players when you're seeing other teams continuing to play games. Like there were 2 on tonight. Like there are clearly not as many games on right now as there normally are because of how many games are getting postponed across the league. But in the Canucks case, it's not a situation. It's a situation where they could have played because they were healthy. Like they have a healthy group. Well, except for Elias Pettersson from right now. And I believe a couple other
There
guys
was one that tested positive today. Oh, Chason tested positive today.
Yeah, that's right. That happened today.
So there's Chason and Pettersson, and I think a couple others. Like I think Besser is just coming out of protocol. But
his road back has been a little weird just because of how he tested positive in the States while they were on the road.
And so did Dickinson as well.
And Dickinson as well. And Justin Dowling, I think, was also in that mix as well.
So that's harder for them. But still, they have a decently healthy roster. Like they're not as dwindled as the Canadians are, per se. So I think they see that and they're like, well, we have a roster.
Yeah,
can we not play in front of fans?
And the Senators were having COVID issues, but they have since, I believe they've since recovered mostly from it.
Yeah, because they had an outbreak earlier. Yeah, they had an outbreak way earlier than every other team. They were one of the first with the biggest outbreaks.
Yeah, and it kind of took out a lot of their team. Like in the Canucks case, they've been in a weird spot where mostly the guys who are getting COVID are guys who weren't here last year. So they weren't part of the big one that just kind of just ran through the whole team while they were while they weren't vaccinated. Right now they're all vaccinated. It's kind of a little bit of it's a one guy every other day, like 2 guys. Yeah, it's Chase on today, and then that's and then
Dickinson's still in protocol. Pettersson's in protocol.
Yeah,
is Besser out of protocol yet?
Besser, I believe, is out of protocol. Okay. I believe he is back out of protocol at this point. Or he's at least on his way back to Vancouver. I think it's something like that. He might, you know what happened? Sorry, Patrick Johnson, I believe, brought it up that he is back in Vancouver, but he still has to quarantine for like another 5 days. He was just able to come back. That was the main thing.
I mean, do you think then with that, when do they leave? Their first game is next Wednesday, I believe, on the road trip.
Oh yeah, I think
he should be back by the road trip. If not, he would join the team.
Exactly.
On the road.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I just look at that as like, it is what it is, but like for the players, it is frustrating for them that they
100%.
That instead of going from a situation where you were going to play probably, you're going to play at least like say 5 games at home in the last little stretch here. Suddenly you're facing a situation where you're going to have played at least like 8 games, or if I've got my math correct here, like 8 games straight on the road. And it could be more because the Panthers come to town on the 21st, followed by the Blues and the Oilers. I don't believe that they've postponed any of those games yet. It's just been the first ones. But then you go back to, it's going to be, it's going to be by the end of it, I believe it's actually technically 10 games. A 10-game
road. It's 10 games straight on the road.
It was 1 game against the Sharks, and then plus the 2 against Anaheim, LA, and Seattle earlier. Seattle last week, and then so those 4, and then another 5 on the road. So you got 9 games in a road,
10
straight on the road. No, I'm looking at the
Yeah, Sharks and then the 2 at the end of the year.
Yeah, 9. It's still 9 because
Okay.
it's because there's only they're going on a 5-game road trip right now. Unless if a game has
Oh,
been
yeah, it's not 6.
rescheduled in that time. So right now the Canucks are not slated to play again until the 11th. In Florida against the one of the league leading Panthers teams.
Yeah.
As well as Tampa,
And Carolina.
also in the top 4.
Yeah.
And then Washington, who I believe is number 1 in the entire league right now.
And they have Alexander Ovechkin, who this season has become a scoring machine.
What do you mean become? He's always been a scoring
yes, but
machine.
this season everyone didn't
He's just
think.
defying age
Yeah,
at this point.
Yeah, exactly. He's actually
He's
insane.
defying all science of age and what it tells us. Yeah,
Who do
right.
we close out against on the road trip? I don't remember.
So they close out. Gee, I didn't. Yeah,
Is it the Islanders?
It is the Predators. They play
Oh,
one game in Nashville against the Predators, who are also leading their division.
Yeah,
so
Predators are pretty good.
The Canucks. So yeah, to recap, the Canucks are going on are slated to go on a 5-game road trip where they will play all 5 teams that are all in the top 8 of the NHL, including the top 3 teams in Tampa, Carolina, and Florida, Washington in number 5, and then Nashville at 8. Like,
yay!
That's insanity. Now, here's the thing. You can kind of maybe look at this as a good thing. Like, for the Canucks, like, this might actually swing in their favor a little bit. The fact that, yeah, they're going to have a bit of a layoff, but since it's not a case of the whole team being decimated by illness and injury.
Like, they pretty much have a solid team.
They have a mostly, like, a pretty darn healthy team.
Yeah.
And you could look at it as a case of, by the time the Canucks get to the 11th, they're going to be very rested. Most of the group the majority of your team is going to be pretty darn rested and ready to go. So you could kind of look at it as a case of, yeah, it's 10 games in a row on the road, but or 9 games on the road, but they're going to be so at 100% compared to some of these other teams that have been playing the whole time, that they might be more ready to go than some of those other teams. They might be able to catch a few of these other teams by surprise in the first parts of this road trip. Like, I look at that Florida game and that Tampa game. Like, I've watched a lot of Florida Panthers games this year in particular because they've been really good. And also I like the Panthers, judging by the fact that for Christmas I ended up with a Roberto Luongo jersey. Can I get a zoom in on that? No, I can't. But I finally got a Roberto Luongo jersey. It only took me 15 years to finally get a Luongo jersey, and I finally have it. It's a beautiful Panthers jersey, by the way. Those jerseys are awesome.
They're really, really nice, to be honest.
They're really nice.
They have one of the best jerseys in the league, in my opinion.
Here's the thing. I don't like the shield on the front. Like, here, I can maybe pull it off the shelf, but I don't like the shield logo they're using on the front of the jersey right now. Like, I would prefer that they were using that old Leaping Panther or the modernized version of it on the front.
Yes.
If they made just that change on that jersey, it would be the best jersey in the NHL, probably.
Fair enough.
Like, it would be maybe not the best, but it's up there. Like, very much up there. The only reason it's not is because I'm not a fan of the shield on the front.
Fair.
Yeah. And yeah, I just look at the Canucks as a potentially they're in a spot where, they can maybe take advantage of a few teams, especially teams are not going to be as surprised at the Canucks being good as they might have been a few weeks back when they had just hired Bruce Boudreau. But the Boudreau boost is a known thing now. So
100%.
It's not but so it's a question of, I don't know about what you think here, Ange, but do you think that the understanding of what the Boudreau boost is now to some teams is going to be enough to keep them from taking the Canucks too lightly? Or do you think they'll look at the fact that the team is hasn't played in a while and everything and kind of have put that out to the side and forgotten about it?
I think you have to take both into consideration in a fact, because yes, teams are going to be like, oh, well, they're rested. They haven't played for a while. But that also might, like you said before, might be to some teams be like, oh, they're really well rested. And some teams might come off a back-to-back or have played a bunch of games right before, and the Canucks haven't. So that's a good thing. But also, like you said, the Boudreau boost is a real thing. They have got a point in every single game they have played since Bruce Boudreau was hired as the head coach of the Canucks.
Yeah.
The only game they lost was in a shootout to the Kings, and they still got a point.
Yeah.
So they have not lost a game without any points, like in regulation,
9-game point streak, yeah.
since Bruce got hired.
Early December, which again, like, we're like a little bit of an asterisk on that just because of how many like pauses there have been in there, like in terms of like not an asterisk on the record, an asterisk on how long it's been, because it'll be like, oh my god, a month and a half they haven't lost a game. Technically true, but also like they haven't played a month and a half's worth of games. Like it's been like, or like a month's worth of games. They've played like 3/4 or like half a month's worth of games just because of all the weird COVID stuff. But yeah,
That's
like
true.
but like the fact that they've been able to turn that into like sustainable momentum has been like good. Like it's been good to see that from that front, that they're playing with that confidence again that they didn't have before.
That's absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Also going to the schedule notes, just as like kind of like a note. I know in BC, because I know they don't want to play with like half capacity restrictions.
Right.
I know in the province that technically restrictions are supposed to end as of January 18th.
18th,
So,
okay.
and they don't play a home game. They're not scheduled to play a home game until the 21st, I believe. So,
Yep, 21
if
against Florida.
the government doesn't put any more restrictions in place, depending on numbers and such, they will be able to go to full capacity as of January 18th. So if they are allowed, I do not think they'll have postponed games unless their whole team gets an outbreak of COVID. But I feel like at this point, they've been so like, I feel like the Canucks haven't had like a major outbreak like the Flames had where everyone got sick at the same time. They've more had a dwindling outbreak. So like few players got COVID and then they quarantined, and then a few more players got COVID, and it's been more like just a few at a time. Yeah. So I still think they'll be able to play. Fingers crossed they are.
I'm not so much. I don't think I'm worried about that at all. Like I think the Canucks will play games as long as they're going. Because again, I think
if
you already look at how many guys have gotten COVID already on this team. Mm-hmm. Like in this time frame, like a decent amount. Mm-hmm. I don't see it like continuing for that long. Like I'd be very surprised if like they were still technically dealing with the same COVID outbreak like that started back in mid-December all the way into like the end of January, where it's just going where it's like going to one player at a time. Like that just feels like that wouldn't happen. Like it feels a little too.
Yeah, I think they're not. It's more just going to be capacity issues. It's going to be, can they have full capacity come January 18th, or are they still going to be at half capacity for who knows how much longer?
Which honestly, like, look, I think I'll say this though. I think if they're still at half capacity by the 21st, I think the Canucks like ownership would want to like to postpone more. But I think at some point the league would put their foot down, be like, no, we can't you already have too many games to make up in the February month that we're not going to the Olympics. We don't have room for you.
Yeah, no.
You're gonna have to play. Like that, I think that will be
true.
I think that will eventually play in. Like I don't look at them. I would be stunned if the league was like, no, we still have time to make up these extra 3 games, one of which is against an Eastern Conference team. Like that's probably doing a Western Canada road trip, like playing Edmonton and Calgary at the same time. Like there's no, I think at that point the NHL probably puts their foot down and goes, okay, like we can't postpone anymore. You don't have the time to do it. We already have to play, I believe, at least 7 or 8 games in February that weren't scheduled before.
A lot of those are East teams. They're not just division teams.
And that's not even including the fact of how difficult it's going to be to find like rink time
travel time
in that like because of how many arenas they've already talked about, like how many arenas had stuff like concerts and stuff booked because they expected the teams to go to the Olympics, so they left those dates open. So they booked, so other acts were coming in and planning to take those days. So now they don't have as many. I mean, there's already like some other teams are looking at different scenarios. Like one thing that came up today, unrelated to the Canucks, was the Jets are actually looking at the idea of moving some of their games to the SaskTel Center in Saskatoon because they don't have an arena restriction. So they might move games So there was like a poll. There was like a season ticket poll, I think it was, or like they were polling season ticket holders on what they would want. And one of the things I think that got a lot of, and I guess one like the most interesting thing out of it was that fans wanted them to maybe move games to Saskatoon so that they could go see the games there in full capacity, which here's the thing. I don't think skirting around COVID restrictions is a good idea. I think that just makes things more dangerous.
Yeah.
But like
Saskatchewan doesn't have an NHL team though, so that's also another thing too. Is like people who live in Saskatchewan and can't go to like other provinces to see games or the US to see games, that would give them an opportunity to see games. So that's kind of cool. But you're right. Like I don't think skirting around restrictions is the right way to go.
Also, you have to factor in, so it actually has changed. It has changed since then. There was it was that they were asking Thursday. It has already been updated to say that this won't happen.
It won't happen. Okay.
The team has announced it won't be moving home games out of its home province, but that was a consideration. And at the same time, like also, I think I have to imagine like in the Jets case, right? Because they don't own the SaskTel Center in Saskatoon, so they wouldn't get the gate revenue necessarily from that, or it'd be like one of those things, like, or at least not all of it. Whereas in the building that they own, when they own empty or whatever it's called now,
MTS
Canada
Center.
Life Center. Or
they changed it.
That won't be like they get the full 100% of revenue from that because it's a privately owned building that they have full control over. Whereas, that in that case, they're still going to lose a lot of money. They're probably but they're going to be able to play in front of a full venue. It's at the end of the day, skirting around the COVID stuff is not a good call. You just got to wait it out.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think that they should, at least in the Canucks case, they should be just
they
playing
should
the games
play by the
with
21st.
They should be playing at half capacity now.
I think by the 21st, like I feel like you said, the league's gonna put its foot down and be like, you're gonna play half cap, no cap, full cap, whatever it is.
One thing I'm noticing on this CBC article about the whole SaskTel thing was the sentence on Thursday night. The Harlem Globetrotters Spread Game World Tour was at the venue and was well attended. Why is that so funny to me? Is it just the fact that they kind of made it sound like they're spreading the disease of game being basketball in this case? They're very much
promoting another sport here.
That's a very weird tour, like name for your tour, Harlem Globetrotters.
That is.
One other Canucks thing. There is some other Canucks stuff to talk about, like obviously besides outside of COVID. Like there are a few other things. The big one being right now that there has been rumors of the Canucks being interested in potentially trading Jaroslav Halak. That has been coming up because the Canucks are in. I don't know if you're aware of this, but the Canucks, the Canucks that Jim Rutherford inherited from a certain other GM.
Certain, you can't even say the name.
No. Why should
that era is?
Why should I? Why should I give him? Why should I say that name? It just makes me.
That just gives him credit.
It just makes me cringe.
Fair enough.
We're left in Cap Hill, and
what a good statement and what a true statement.
Yeah, exactly.
It's accurate.
Yeah, they left entirely in Cap Hill. And one of the issues coming up right now is the fact that Jaroslav Halak currently has a cap hit on the team of 1.5 million, is nearing his performance bonus achievement, which is that essentially that if he plays 10 games in his contract, if he plays 10 games, the Canucks have to pay him an additional 1.25 million. I believe is the correct number. Now,
that's not a lot,
it's not a lot of money, really. Like if it were just about the actual cash itself, like who cares?
Yeah.
But the problem is that also factors into the cap hit. Yeah. And the Canucks, as they are right now,
have no cap.
Do not have the cap hit to take that. So what happens in that case is that any money that you are over, you're allowed to be 7% over the cap, which wouldn't be it wouldn't bring us over that. It wouldn't bring us over that. But the thing is that when you go over the cap, regardless of how much percentage it's by, you have to, that comes out of next year's bill instead. So it's a cap. You basically get a recapture penalty of 1.25 million next year. So the Canucks are in a position where he has played 8 games because it's not starts. It is Any game, anytime.
So anytime you had to come in for Demko.
Yeah, which has only been once this year. He's only had to come play in relief once.
That was when we got actually embarrassed, but
yeah,
that's we're not going to talk about that.
But that was in the before time.
The before time.
Yeah, the before Boudreaux era. And the Canucks are in a spot now where they kind of have to look at the idea of trading him, because they can't have that on their books next year. They just can't.
Yeah.
They cannot have another 1.2. They can't have 1.25 million going to someone who's no longer on their team.
Exactly. Because he's not going to be here after this year.
No, 100% no. And as much as I like Halak, I love Halak actually as a backup goaltender. Like, he's been getting, it started rough for him.
Yeah.
But he's gotten he's improved a lot. His numbers are actually quite good. If you look at his numbers during his Canucks games, he's just had the misfortune of playing in a few of the games where the Canucks have not been scoring, and he has gotten very little run support in a lot of those games. Like the last game against the Kings is the only Canucks loss of the Bruce Boudreau era in that shootout, and he had 30-something saves. Like, he was the only reason they got to a shootout at all. He was fantastic in that game.
Yeah, they couldn't score goals for him.
No. And with Halak, there's been the discussion of, well, he's probably one of the guys that you actually can get some trade value for. And I actually went and explored that in a Canucks Army article, because I was interested to see what kind of returns and what teams would actually be interested in picking up, because goaltending is often a very set in stone deal.
That's true.
And it was, my editor, David Quadrelli, he basically was like, hey, can you look into this? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And I
just give a subtle shout out to Quads there.
Of course I do. Of course, friend of the show, Quads. Skating buddy, Quads. I looked into it, and I kind of brought in a few teams. I brought 3 teams to the table. The big issue with Halak, and why it's going to be very hard to trade him, is because thanks to the just great negotiating power of the last guy,
the past era.
Yeah, he not only does he have that massive performance bonus, he also has a no move clause, a full no move clause. So you are basically stuck. He holds the hammer. Any deal Halak doesn't want, he can say no to, essentially.
Lovely.
And the way that the Canucks, and obviously the way things are going for the Canucks, you can't play Demko forever. No. Eventually you're gonna have to go to a backup to give him a night off,
especially if they're in the playoff hunt, because if he plays pretty much every game until playoffs and they make the playoffs, he's so burnt out that he's not going to be good, and they're just going to flop, because he honestly is what not as much anymore, but
for
sure. He definitely holds the team together.
Yeah, no, if Halak or Demko, is not is not healthy, and cannot play at the same pace that he is, the Canucks are going to be in trouble, because they are very much a team that, with the way that their defense is, they're reliant on their goaltender to be as good as possible every single night.
Yeah.
So the way I'm looking at it from the Canucks perspective is, okay, if you trade Halak, it's got to be quick. It's got to be sooner rather than later. And frankly, that's the best way to do it, even if there was no performance bonus to look at in any case.
That's true.
Because
deadline's always harder to move players.
It is. Yes, exactly. It is always harder to move players at the trade deadline, because that's when everybody's trying to move players.
Exactly.
And sometimes that means there are going to be better players available. Like in Halak's case, Halak is a very good goaltender, has name recognition. But he's 36. He's an older guy. There's going to be other options out there, other younger, better options out there at the trade deadline itself that you can't risk trying to sell Halak around that time too, because it's going to diminish his value. If you right now you have time on your side, in that sense that if you get something done soon, you could theoretically have it figured out, have that dealt before the trade deadline even becomes an issue.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then another team's on the hook to pay that money, right?
Yeah.
But obviously that's the other thing. Any team that's bringing him in is basically guaranteeing they're going to have to pay $3 million, because they're going to play him twice in the next 50-something games, or 45 games, right?
Yeah.
They're going to play him twice.
So it needs to be a team that has enough cap space to afford that, but also can take on a goaltender and where Halak would want to go.
Yeah,
There's so many factors.
Either that or a team that is desperate enough for goaltending help and believes that they're close enough to a Stanley Cup that they need a bona fide goaltender now and they don't care what money that costs, kind of thing, at no expense, kind of thing, where like they're like, oh yeah, cap penalty next year, that's fine, and they do it anyway.
Do you
Like,
think the Oilers would? Just out of curiosity, because the
I think the
Oilers
Oilers
have
would.
never had goaltending. I feel like, and they still don't have goaltending, but they have like they don't. Their defense isn't great, but they have the scores to get them.
Yes, I
farther.
think the Oilers. So I think everybody was saying the Oilers, like that was the main one, because particularly because there was the whole thing this week where Mike Smith has been terrible.
Yep.
Mikko Koskinen has been terrible. And then Mikko Koskinen basically went on to it, talked to like on a to a Finnish newspaper. And
I saw
was
something
like,
about
it's
that.
not, and basically was like, I don't think it's fair that I'm getting blamed. I can't score goals, which
Which
on one hand I
fair.
get, but with one hand totally fair, but also you were bad in those games. You didn't help them.
It's you're not Thatcher Demko.
It's not like with Demko where you're stealing where you're like stealing the show
and
every
keeps
single
them
night
in them,
and you're still losing.
Yeah.
You are just as bad as your non-scoring teammates, so you don't get to complain.
No.
You are just as bad. Like
if this were Demko and he talked to a paper, he has every right to complain because he makes like 40 saves a game and the Canucks just can't score for him. Well, that in the past era, but but
like
Koskinen has only made like 20 saves a game, hasn't been very good, and so you can't just leave it up to your teammates to score like 7 goals a game and get by giving up 5 goals. It doesn't work like that.
And in particular, the funniest part is the game that he's referring to is one against the Rangers where he literally gave the puck behind the net to a Ranger and
I remember
Ranger
that.
put it in the empty net.
Yeah,
because it's like, yeah, no, you don't get to complain. Like
you did that.
Your coach was mad for like your coach definitely should have blamed your lack of scoring as well, but it's still your fault that they ended up tied. Like you were at like the nearing like regulation. Like, come on.
That interview was so good. It was
very funny.
With the coach
I
because
appreciate the goss.
he really was like honest with the media and was like, yeah, our goaltending sucked pretty much.
But then he walked it back and it was
like you should have just left it there. And I think a lot of people would have appreciated it a lot more for what it was than you backfiring and be like, oh, never mind, or try to cover it up or make it better. But no.
Yeah, it was a whole deal. Anyway, the Oilers are one of those teams that is so desperate to get to the playoffs because of how disastrous this season has how disastrous the era has been for them and how badly they're playing now. And despite having literally 2 of the top 3 players in the entire world on their team right now, that's unacceptable. You should be making the playoffs every single year and being the best team out there and crushing everybody in your path. And you're not able to do that partially because you're not building a team around them at all. You haven't built a team. You have built them a bunch of anchors that they have to pull that they have to pull a rock up a hill and hope it goes well. And the Mike Smith and Mikko Koskinen are as a tandem. I think anyone could have told you was a mistake to go back to again, and they did it anyway. And now it's really coming back to bite them. I think Edmonton is desperate enough that they might give it a try. But I think out of any team, that is the one that Halak would be like, no, I'm not playing. I'm not taking a trade to Edmonton.
Because Edmonton would screw him over.
Well, it's not even that. It's just that if you have the power to move yourself to any team in the league,
why would you go to Edmonton?
Why would you go to, let alone Edmonton? Why, not even just to take not even I'm not going to
not even the city, but
I'm talking about why would you go to the team that consistently underperforms, and consistently has some of the most pressure and puts you in the worst spots possible.
When you play in front of when you're backing when you're goaltending a player on the team McDavid plays on, that adds a whole element of pressure because he is so good. And Draisaitl too, where you feel like you have to be so good so then they can give those guys a chance, especially.
Yeah, it's not a real win-win situation for you. Whereas the other 2 teams that I talked about in that article that I think in particular are actually more likely to go for it, to get a deal done with. Then this is not based on intel or anything. This is just based on my own kind of taking a look at the teams around the league.
Yeah.
I would say one team to look at the main team to look at is Vegas, and the other one is Colorado. The reason I say those two in particular is because in Vegas's case, they're in a team. They might be in the lead in their division, but the goaltending has been not good for them.
No.
Like, it's been okay, but not good enough.
Yeah.
Robin Lehner has not done as well this year as I think they were hoping, especially after trading Fleury.
Oh yeah.
And Laurent Brossoit has not been decent enough as a backup.
No.
And
they need Halak to be a backup. They
need Halak to be a 1B, which he can be, I think. Like, in the right situation, I think 100%. He could be. I think in the Canucks case, he's in a spot where the defense isn't good enough for him to be a 1B.
Vegas has a good defense, though.
Vegas has a very good defense, exactly. So I think the thing is here, right? The main issue with Vegas, of course, is that they don't have any cap space at all. Like, if the Canucks don't have cap space, the Knights don't have cap space, and then some.
Especially because of the Eichel deal, because he's not even hitting the cap yet. But as soon as he steps on that ice, that cap is
$10 million.
Is $10 million less.
The Knights already have to find a way to get rid of $10 million off their books, which sounds like that would make Halak. That's impossible. They're not going to take Halak on for that case. The thing that I think is why I think they would go for it anyway is because I think the Knights, if there's one thing that they've shown over the last 5 years of their existence, it's that they will do anything to go for it, and they will look at every situation as we can have our cake and eat it too. Like, I see them,
absolutely.
When they I always go back to the Pietrangelo thing, where they basically had it signed. They had that contract with him already signed and delivered before they had made a trade, knowing full well that was going to mean that they were going to have to take a loss trading somebody else just to free up the space for him, which ended up being the Canucks taking on Nate Schmidt.
Who would you get rid of if Vegas were to take on Jaroslav Halak, and then Jack Eichel comes back and for cap space?
Well,
who would for just looking at Halak then? Who would you trade then, or how would you free up cap space if you were the Knights?
Well, say if I'm Jim Rutherford here, because you're trying to you're gonna try to hold him a little bit to the fire a bit here, not too much, because you do need to get Halak moved. I think Halak would be happy to go to Vegas. I think he would love. I think Vegas that's a situation.
Absolutely.
So the immediate starting point is, okay, you're taking back Brossoit, which means that you're taking on a not as good goaltender who is technically right now has a higher cap hit than Halak because he's making $2 million, but year over year that's less than the close to $3 million that he'd get if you had to give the performance bonus.
True.
So there probably still have to be a case where somebody on your taxi squad or something has to get dropped back down or something like that, like a higher paid player, maybe Travis Hamonic kind of seems like the odd man out at this point. Maybe that's where
I don't mind that, though.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people do at this point, but that's what has to happen essentially to bring in Brossoit, and for 2 years at a guy without a no trade clause, in theory, you could probably flip him to somebody else if you wanted to after.
Yeah, even before trade deadline, depending when you get the deal done.
Heck, you could even send him to the AHL, bring up Mikey DiPietro or Steelovs if you wanted to instead.
I would almost prefer that in a way, because yes, I feel like DiPietro, I feel like they would move up Silva.
I think Steelovs, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they would move him up first, but it depends, right? But also that gives them the experience of being in the AHL, but you'd have to look at their development
if you
down
they're good enough to be a regular backup, because you'd
you'd have to look at their development and
starts.
You'd have to look at their development and see if they're even ready to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I know Cody has talked about before that he's not liked what he's seen from Mikey DiPietro this year. It's been a rough year for him.
Yeah, I don't think he would come up.
Has fared a bit better.
Yeah.
But either way, it's a question of, do you feel they're NHL ready to play regular NHL games, because you'd still have to do that as a backup to Demko, because he can't play every game.
That's true.
So I think immediately you start off with that. It's the Brossoit for Halak. It is much easier to deal a Laurent Brossoit elsewhere if you have to than it is with Halak, because of Halak's no move and everything else that comes with it.
Yeah.
And in particular when it comes to next year, so because he would still have one more year on his contract, whereas Halak has obviously done it this year. The thing is, the Knights, to make that money work, would still have to send you another guy, and that's where it gets interesting, because they have a lot of guys who don't make an insane amount of money in the bottom line, who could be very decent.
Wait, you looking at forwards or defense?
Forwards in particular, because I
Never
think
mind.
their defense. I know exactly who you were thinking of. Absolutely no Ben Hutton.
But why not?
Because he's not good enough.
He's not that bad.
He's not good enough.
He's not that.
But you could
Let's
get
be
more.
honest
You could
here.
get more for Halak. Let's put it
Yes,
that way. You could get
you
more
can.
for Halak than a second
But
go
let's
around
be
with Ben
honest.
Hutton.
Let's be honest though. Ben Hutton is a world better than Tucker Pullman.
I mean that. Yeah, but that's like okay. But that's like
I had to bring that up because honestly, like when you look at our defense and Tucker Pullman being a starter on the
that's like
defense,
saying
Ben Hutton is
that's
better.
like being proud of a snail for being faster than a turtle. That's nothing. That means nothing.
I will defend Hutton till the grave.
I know
I will always defend him.
He's fine, but he's okay. But you could get more for you in this particular scenario. You could get more for Halak.
That's true.
And I think the way that you look at what the Knights have to offer, especially once you factor in, the cost of everything, I think you could, especially with the fact that Ben Hutton's 28.
That's true.
There are much younger options available to you that you could go after.
true.
I look at a guy maybe this is a hard sell, but if you wanted a defenseman, maybe you look at a guy I don't know, Zach Whitecloud, that would bring in money next year. And
he's also young and he's also developing to be a really good NHL defenseman.
Now, that is very much dreaming big and probably very, very, very unlikely. So I wouldn't say that's my main call, but I would look at frankly, I'm looking at the case of okay, they have, maybe you could bring in something like a Nicholas Waugh or something who's making $750 a year.
So they're not big cap hits and they're also decent players.
You don't need to bring the thing with this particular
trade
a star. You don't need to bring in a star. You just need some younger guys who can come in and maybe chip away a little bit. And the Knights do have a large glut of players who are on the younger side and have shown that they can contribute at the NHL level on a regular basis. Because the Knights seem to be very, very good at finding those guys.
They're good at almost developing guys.
Yeah. And so I look at this as a case of where they could easily do that, where they could easily, or the Canucks could easily get a young prospect or or maybe not a prospect, but a younger player and Laurent Brossoit out of this deal. Brossoit is kind of just the throw in, because you have to.
Yeah, you have to because you need another goaltender.
The real meal ticket is that extra guy, and you get rid of the cap, and you getting rid of the Halak,
cap hit,
the Halak bonus, and everything with it. And I think you could get that done. And I look at I think with the Knights, they very much would look at it as a case of our goaltending isn't good enough. We've gone 100% all in this year. We're already going to have to dump a bunch of guys the second Jack Eichel comes back, or the second we're close to getting Jack Eichel back for very little. So we better make sure we have goaltending that can back it up, because we're going to lose some depth guys pretty quickly here.
True. So, and Halak can be that depth backup guy.
Yeah, because the way the Knights are playing right now, the second you bring in Eichel and have to get rid of some really good guys to bring him in, because they're going to lose.
Yeah.
They're going to here's straight up, they're going to lose. They're going to lose probably at least two of William Karlsson, Jonathan Marchessault, Riley Smith, Dadonov, Pietrangelo, Theodore, McNabb, one of those guys.
They're going to lose one or two.
Lose two, probably two.
Yeah.
And that's not even including the fact that Max Pacioretty as well. Max Pacioretty, you probably
he could be an almost easier one to lose because he's older, but still it's a big hit.
Alec Martinez, same thing. There's a lot of guys big name guys who you're probably going to lose to close for next to nothing
because they're older and because you need to make room for Eichel.
Right. So you're already going to have that problem. So you better hope your goaltending is good enough to get you through with the suddenly not as strong forward core, or not as deep forward core. So I think that they're a team to keep an eye on. The other one is Colorado, because their goaltending has been abysmal this year.
I feel like they got Gruber hasn't been great with Colorado, but I feel like they got
atrocious.
I feel like
got lucky. They kind of got lucky.
They got lucky in that way, but also the guys they have that they thought were going to be better than they are have not been good.
Yeah, the
reason they're decent is because of Nathan McKinnon and Gabe Landeskog and Mika Rantanen and all the depth guys they have up front and on the defense. That's the only reason they're good. And they're not even that good.
The second they signed the replacement was Darcy Kemper. For me,
that was bad.
Here's the thing. It's not bad on the surface, because Darcy Kemper, I think, is a really good goaltender. He's underrated.
It just doesn't work.
The problem is that he was the only guy they signed, And the way that and if there's one thing that's been a huge issue for the Avalanche over the last however many years is that their goaltenders get hurt all the time. And Darcy Kemper gets hurt
He
regularly.
has the worst
he has
history of
very bad
injuries.
injury luck.
You
are guaranteed to have a deal with at least one Darcy Kemper injury a year. And that's not good. That's not great, especially when you've already had a history of running out of goaltenders. Like the year that the bubble season, I think they 100% would have probably gotten to the cup final had it not been that they ended up going down to Michael Hutchison by the second round against Dallas.
Literally.
Like they literally were on their fourth goaltender.
It
might even been fifth. Like they brought
injured. A lot of goaltenders literally to the bubble for this reason.
Francouz got hurt.
Not
Pickard. The other
I forget his name.
The other guy. There was anyway. There were more.
The other young guy also got hurt, who was their third string goaltender.
Yeah.
And then
Hunter Miska, I think was also in there. I think that might have been
Michael Hutchison.
And then Hutchison. And it's like, well, of course they lost. They were down to their fourth goaltender, who wasn't very good.
Fifth.
Who was having to do a whole lot more than he
prepares to or should have.
Yeah. And so the Avalanche are a team that definitely needs it, and their backup situation has been rough. Like Pavel Francouz has only played one game all year, and the one game he played, he had an 882.
I feel for Francouz though because he's good. Like he's a decent goaltender. I think this season has been rough.
He's 31.
Like
he's older. I don't.
He also has spent his whole career in the AHL, has he not?
Yeah.
So
I keep thinking like, in a few years
he was good for 1 year, and now he's not.
Francouz is going to be pretty good, but then I remember, he's actually 30. This is probably as good as he's gonna be. Like not the 82.
Yeah.
I think he's a little better than that.
Oh,
that's
true.
A bit of a weird one, especially considering it's one game. So I'm kind of like wondering what the deal is there.
Yeah, true.
It's just it appears to be just an ankle issue for him or of some kind. But like, yeah, if you're the Avalanche, you absolutely need some goaltending help. And Halak might be your guy there. I think Halak's pretty durable. Like I don't think he gets hurt pretty often.
No.
Or at least not in the last few years. Maybe when he was starting regularly, but
like Vegas, Colorado has a really good defense that can help him out and back him up, unlike the Canucks do.
Yeah. It is a case of like he 100% like it's one of for Colorado. I think they would be an easier team to get a deal done with because they have more cap room.
Oh yeah,
not a lot more, but a little.
But they have a little bit more, and they're not in the crunch Vegas is in the way of waiting for Eichel to come back and having to then move more players. Like I feel like
exactly
Colorado can take they have enough cap space, and then they don't also have to worry about down the road clearing more cap space.
Yeah, they're in a spot where they can move around.
Yeah,
they can move some money around and not have to worry about, say, trading the farm to bring in goaltending help.
Yeah,
but the Canucks would still be in a spot where they could definitely take a guy to make the money. Where they would still have to be like, okay, well, I'll take a guy to make the money.
I was going to ask you because I was going to be like, do you think this would be a 1-for-1, or who would you take as well with Francouz?
You're taking Francouz.
Yeah.
Who is only on his last year. So then
you can just get another goalie for next year.
And then you're off the hook there. Great.
Exactly.
Perfect. Bingo. Then the other one is to make the money work. You maybe look at you're obviously not going to get there's a lot of defense. Like there's a lot of good defensemen that the Avs have, but they're not
like Eric Johnson and Samuel Girard and
Bowen Byram. If they want to give us
Cale Makar.
I'll
take Cale Makar.
Yeah, you know what? If they want to give us Cale Makar,
I'll take Cale Makar
by all means.
And Bowen Byram, I'll take those.
You know, right defenseman, he'd fit quite well next.
He'd be great. Oh, what a pairing!
Cale Makar.
Can you imagine? That would be a dream come true.
I don't think the Canucks.
We would have to trade so many players for them to happen.
I mean, the Canucks would never win 5 straight Stanley Cups with that defense.
Yes,
I think you can, but I think in the Avs case, they're also they're in a spot where they're almost maybe even more all in than the Knights are because of the
100%.
fact that a lot of their guys like Nazem Kadri. And I believe there's a few of them. There's a lot of guys who are
expired
who have contracts coming up this year.
And a lot of the guys are getting older too.
Yeah, Burakovsky's coming up. Nichushkin comes up. They have a lot of guys who are going to be UFAs next year. and Ryan Murray is going to be a UFA.
Yeah.
Jack Johnson, but you don't want Jack
We
Johnson.
don't want Jack Johnson. That would be just another Tucker Pullman on the team, and I'm not about to have that.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah. So with the Avs, they're a case where like you're definitely taking a younger guy, like a prospect who's still in like either the AHL or in junior, and they have plenty of those guys.
And that's not even like that would be actually a good thing for the Canucks in a way. They send them to the AHL and then move some guys, whatever, and then that player can be a guy for them down the road next year or the year after, depending on the development and where he's at.
Yeah. In theory, you could get a guy who's already kind of close, like where the cake's almost baked already, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
so like an
Like,
AHL guy who's scratching
just
at
on
the
the
door
cusp,
to come
yeah.
in. Yeah.
Like more like a Jack Rathbone almost, like where
Yeah.
he's like just about there. Like he's
Yeah.
just about ready to
who's
go.
maybe
He's
played
just
a couple
not-
NHL games.
He's
but
just not ready to crack the Avalanche, who are a really good team.
Exactly.
That's
But
one of
who
those
could
things.
crack the Canucks?
Yeah. So, and that's I don't know enough about these prospects to say, but I will say like Colorado, like just looking at the defense that's not already in like on the NHL team, like Justin Barron, Nathan Clerman, Roland McKeon, Jordan Gross, are all like they're all righties. They're all righty defensemen.
And we need right defensemen.
And they need
desperately.
righty defensive help very quickly.
Desperately.
There's not nearly as many at like the NHL level for them, like on
Yeah.
right D. Like obviously it's guys who they'd never trade in a million years, like
Yeah.
Makar, like Eric Johnson, like
Yeah.
like Sam Girard.
Sam Girard. Like all those guys are like
I mean, maybe you could go to Sam
starters.
Girard. You don't have $5 million to Sam Girard. I was again.
Sammy
we can
G is a
dream.
great player,
We can
but we
dream.
do not have the money for him, and Colorado would want a lot more than just Jaroslav Halak for him.
Right. I mean, maybe that comes part of the bigger deal. Like maybe in a theory, like you start with like a Halak Francouz thing, but like in theory, maybe like I'm not saying like for Girard specifically, but like one of the younger guys, like younger blue chip prospects, maybe it builds into something bigger that
you trade like prospect for prospect or something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Or like an older guy. Because the Avalanche are a lot closer than the Canucks for winning a Stanley Cup. They've been scratching at the door. Yes, but they've been scratching at the door for a few years now. And I think they're at the part where, like you said, they're more all in than Vegas because they're like, we want this. Because like you said, they have a lot of guys who have like expiring contracts and they're not going to be able to sign them all. And a lot of these guys like Johnson and stuff are getting older.
They're closer
and so how
to the
much
end of their window than Vegas is.
Exactly. Because Vegas is more built on young guys, whereas Colorado has a lot of like late 20s, early 30s guys, where those guys are gonna like hit the end of their prime very, very soon.
And then there's also the whole thing of like in 2 years, Nathan McKinnon's incredibly team-friendly contract comes up, and once you have to renegotiate that,
that's gonna be a struggle.
You're gonna be in a lot tougher of a cap situation, so you might as well go for it now, kind of thing.
Exactly.
But again, like in those two cases, it's a case of if you let it get to the trade deadline, it's going to be too late.
100%.
I mean, at that point, really, here's the thing. At that point, they've already paid out the performance bonus with Halak. That's already
because
triggered.
he'll 100%.
I don't know if necessarily, like, I don't know what the rules are in particular. Like, if you trade him after you've hit the 10 mark, does it still count on your cap? Or has it as long as it's put into the trade deal, can you still trade that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like we'll say I'm arguing from the sense of like I would say that you kind of have to already make the deal early anyway in this case, because there's going to be more goalie options available closer to March. So I think your best bet is you try and talk to both of these teams now while it's still early. And you get that deal done now before it's like gets to be too late in the year and more goalies are available. I think you could.
Yeah.
I easily think Vegas and Colorado are the two teams that you should be looking at. I've heard Nashville, I think, as well. But I'm very much on like the train of like, I think Nashville knows that they're kind of in like house money kind of situation.
Yeah, whereas Vegas and Colorado more have money to move, especially Colorado.
They do have $10 million in cap space, the Predators, but I don't think that. I think they're using that as a point of like, we don't want to get rid of anybody. Right?
That's more of signing players.
That's more of signing players, and that's more of a, if we are all in, we're gonna go in and get somebody big, like, you know.
Yeah, where we can like afford to lose, like we don't have to trade as many people to like take on a bigger contract.
Exactly. I think for that, like, I think that just about wraps it up for this episode. Was there anything else we should mention before we get out of here today?
I don't think so. I think that was pretty much everything with the Halak thing. when is the trade deadline? Because I'm not
I believe it's in
100% sure.
I believe it's in March,
Like
or
early March?
It's either in
Late
I believe it's
February?
either in late March or early April.
Okay, so there's a lot of time. However, they still need to think about getting it done soon,
Yeah,
especially with that bonus thing hanging over their head and only 2 more games to go before it takes effect.
yeah. That's pretty much where they are at right now, and they've got lots of time to figure that out because they're not playing games, so they'll have lots of time to.
Yeah, that's
They have
true.
a little bit of extra time to kind of figure out where they want to
And
go.
Jim
from there.
Rutherford has more time to like kind of make deals and kind of propose things and such.
Yeah,
like
and get a feel for what
that.
the
What
situation
they can
is,
get,
what
and
they could get.
and also talk to Halak too, because like you said, he has that no move clause, so he has to approve anything that happens.
Yeah, I think Halak is just in a position where it's like he wants to go to, if he's gonna go anywhere, if he's gonna waive the no trade, it's gonna be to a team that's going to either gonna win a cup
Or very close to.
or like is either close, like yeah, they're a cup contender, or maybe there's a shot that he moves to a team that's just gonna give him a lot of games. But I don't think that, like, I don't
think
look
he
at him in
wants to win a
situation-
cup, so then if he wins
Yeah,
a cup,
I would be-
he retires.
I'd be stunned if Jaro Halak waived his no trade to go to like Arizona
Or
just
the
'cause they were
Oilers.
gonna get, well, not even there. Like I would say, like, you know, like Arizona, where they 100% need a goaltender, would Jaro Halak would be an instant upgrade on everything they have.
Yeah, he would literally
he's
play
like-
every game.
He would literally play every game, but is he gonna do that to go lose a bunch of games for the Coyotes?
Yeah, no,
No,
because
probably
the
not.
Coyotes
No.
have no depth in
Why
front
would
of them
you do that?
whatsoever.
Yeah, why would you do that? Why would you waste the rest
Yeah.
of your season playing on a bad team for no reason, just because you're gonna
Yeah.
play a lot, right?
Exactly.
Like, no, if he's gonna waive, it's gonna be to a team that's really good in a
Yeah.
position, in a situation that he feels is most beneficial to him. And right now, based on what teams need and what teams like, it's a case of like, if like in Halak's case, right? Like he's not gonna waive as likely. I would say he's not as likely to waive for a team where it's like they've already got a very clearly set situation where he's gonna play just as little games here as he is, because he's on pace to play, I think, the least amount of games in the last however many years,
Yeah.
like even less than last year where he played 56 in the shortened season. He played only 18 games. This year in an 82, he might only play that same number, right? For the
Yeah.
Canucks. So like it's a case of like you send him to a team like Colorado, like Vegas, where their goaltending hasn't been as superb, and they might be more likely to go to him on a regular basis just to see what he can do and what he can do with their defense. So I think that's a case where he's going to waive. Like he would waive for Vegas. He would waive for Colorado.
Yeah.
He might not waive for a team like Edmonton.
And thinking about it too, like with the trade, like obviously we'd get their backup back and then maybe another player, probably another player. And that backup, like, yeah, like you said, like both teams haven't had good goaltending all year, but we also have Ian Clark, who is one of the best goaltending coaches in the league. And so you can think about that as well and think maybe that will help whoever comes in.
Yeah. I mean,
it's hard for this season, but like say they do stay, that could be something looking at down the road.
Yeah, I think in Vancouver's case, it's mostly just about making sure you've got room for next year, because there's going to be like Brock Besser's contract coming up. Like there's going to be more.
There's a
like,
few contracts I think coming up,
and you have goaltenders in your pipeline long term. Like I don't think they even like.
They
I think any goaltender they're bringing in this trade is just the. All right, he'll do
for the rest
now.
of the season.
Because again, like you don't have to make the playoffs for this year to be a success the way it's going. Like it just has to be like, okay, we clearly improved. We clearly moved out a bunch of money to prepare for next year when the team's going to be probably a lot better. And that's what you're worrying about. Like any trade for the now is not a good call. Like you've got to look at like trades for what's going to help you long term, what's going to help you in next year rather than the end of this year in the last 20 games.
Where that other player in that trade comes in?
Yeah, that's where potentially getting.
Whereas the goaltender is just putting a band-aid over like what they need right now.
It's just a small it's just a small
like just a piece of the puzzle they need right now that they can easily replace with another one.
Yeah, easily. Exactly. And yeah, I believe that cuts it for this episode of the CreaseCast for this week. Ange, it has been a pleasure. Where can people find you on the internet?
So Twitter, I am at Ange Mintz. And you'll put that in the description or on the screen. Yeah. So Ange Mintz on Twitter. And
that's
Twitter's the main one.
Twitter's main.
Twitter's the main.
Yeah.
You can follow my journalism accounts, but they're very boring right now. So
I assume
or AngelinaMintz.com is my website. So you can check out some of my journalism work on there as well.
There you go. And obviously Cody's not here, but if Cody were here, he would tell you to go check out his work at ahlnucksharvest.com and check out his work and check him out on Twitter at Cody Sievertson, as well as at AHL Nucks Harvest on Twitter and Instagram as well.
Where can they find you, Lachlan?
That's a great question. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Lock in the Crease. You can find my writing work at canucksarmy.com.
And
No, I
don't
write it. No, I don't write it there anymore.
Oh.
No, I write full time at CA. And then you can find, and then if you enjoyed the show, make sure to give us a 5-star rating on
and a thumbs up
and a
on
thumb
YouTube.
and a thumbs up on Spotify. We do. There are reviews now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So that's
and
awesome.
Thumbs up
And then
on YouTube.
Thumbs up and hit that subscribe button. Smash that like button and that subscribe button on YouTube. We really appreciate it. I want to get us to 100 subscribers on the YouTube channel by the end of the year, so go do that.
You can do it, people. Hit subscribe.
Yes. You can also go check out, if you really enjoyed the show, you can go check out our Patreon for $1 and $5 tiers. We do like some bonus shows. We do some little extra content. I'm actually I may or may not be actually starting a new a column for Patreon people only. That might be coming out this weekend, so keep an eye out for that. Like something of that to keep the content flowing over there. And then obviously check us out on Twitter at the CreaseCast and on Instagram at the CreaseCast as well. Until next time, guys, thank you guys so much for listening. We'll be back on Monday. Cody will be back on Monday as well. And we'll see you next time. Bye.